So today let's talk about 10 pieces that spoil your proportions. So number 1 is too long top or too long t-shirt that is not tucked in into your pants. Especially if you have shorter legs or if you are petite, that is a huge no-no. If you're not going to tuck this into your pants or skirt, the perfect length of your top should be these 2 top bones of your hips. That is the safest one to keep your proportions balanced, whether you're tall or small or you're plus size. It's like a guide for you. If you're not sure, just tuck this into your pants and that's fine. Sometimes if you have this blouse, you tuck this into your pants, the silhouette doesn't feel right, so you can slightly tuck it out and make this blouse effect. This way, this waist area will be a little bit more relaxed, not as tight. So it can camouflage that area slightly. It makes the silhouette a little bit more fluid and relaxed. Number 2, big sleeves. That normally looks very disproportionate nearly on any woman because you're creating a different silhouette. The silhouette matters. So nobody knows where your natural shoulders are. So everybody reads your silhouette as these huge arms, huge shoulders or something, or lifted shoulders. So lifted shoulders always create shorter neck and a bit more squarish figure, whether you want it or not. That can be tiny, slightly sharp, accentuated here, not necessarily widening your shoulders. That might look quite good. Actually, I would say on any body type. It should just not alter the natural silhouette of your body too much. Then you're safe. So little details here and there, little ruffles here and there is fine unless they are changing the outline too much. Even if there are some details at the front of your body, it's not as much readable as the outline of your silhouette rather than something on the sides. Because when we're making pictures, most of the time we are facing the camera. When we come to people and talk to them, we are facing them. So normally the silhouette is something that we read when we look at the front of the person. Number 3, off the shoulder. Sometimes they call it Bordeaux top. So Brigitte Bardot made it very famous in the 60s. But her shoulders were very tiny. And she had also huge hairstyle. Everything looked kind of balanced. Her shoulders were small, her rib cage was very narrow. Also the top was cropped. She had high-waisted pants, slightly cropped pants, so everything kind of was very tight and very balanced. However, it's easy to make a mistake if you are just going for, let's say, big piece of fabric here. If it's too contrasted with the rest of your body, if this part of your body is already wider than the rest, and if the top is longer, so it all can create very strange silhouette and can disbalance your proportions a little bit. Number 4, too high-waisted pants. Just in general, high-waisted pants can elongate your legs, but there are some women whose proportions can be slightly disbalanced because that can shrink their torso, especially women whose head is big or elongated face. For them, that short torso can be even more accentuated by that high-waisted skirt or pants. Sometimes it makes sense just to go for regular waist. Number 5, oversized everything. So there are some women who look quite natural and effortless in everything oversized, and some women for whom that just looks very weird. If they're delicate overall, and if the oversized pieces cover their wrists, for example, cover their ankles. So all that is creating that bulky effect on them, and it creates such a big contrast with their delicate facial features and delicate head. So sometimes it just makes sense to go one size down. Number 6, big long bell dresses. And any woman looks a little bit like a balloon on them, especially if the fabric is very thick and it's kind of standing straight. You know, there's some fabric that is matte, like a paper. So it stands straight and it doesn't have much movement. So when she walks outside, maybe it looks very interesting on the pictures, especially when she stands slightly on a side. She's being photographed from an angle and from bottom there. But just in general, for everyday look, that can look slightly weird because she actually looks like she was put in a huge bag. So if you have this dress, just add a belt and see how it looks, because it actually might look perfect with a belt. Because we need a little bit narrower here. Sometimes they make these bell dresses with slightly softer fabric, so this fabric is actually moving with you and we can predict where your waist is, where your hips are. So in this case, that might look quite nice. Of course, it depends on your body and the dress itself, but in the majority cases, this is what's happening. Number 7, similar to this one, is high-waisted dress. Again, not every high-waisted dress looks balanced. And it's funny because sometimes on the very skinny ladies whose legs are just like sticks, it can look quite nice because when we look at her, we can see that she's just bones and skin. Our eyes can predict what is it inside of this dress. This dress looks very interesting, like a package. She can look like a doll, which can be even charming in many cases. But for some women who already have some soft flesh, and let's say this dress finishes somewhere in the middle of their calves, which is the widest part of the bottom part of their legs, our brain is creating something big inside of this dress normally. That is just one thing to keep in mind. Number 8, shoulder pads. Now, there are women whose neck is very long and they feel like they need to shorten it, believe it or not. Shoulder pads are just lifting the shoulders up to here so her neck shrinks. But for women who want to make their neck look more elongated, and there's a majority of women like that, normally those shoulder pads are not for them. If you want still some structure here, you can still go for them, just make sure they're very thin. So they just should keep the shoulders quite sharp here, but that's basically what you need. Number 9, sometimes there are that type of dresses when the torso is elongated and then there's a bouffant skirt attached to that. And just in general, that shape of a dress looks very harmonious on women. It can be a beautiful evening dress, it can be a beautiful wedding dress too. But sometimes that is made in a contrasted fabric, then the top part is not as long, so it looks more like a torso and a skirt. So when it's quite close to your natural waist, but still a little bit lower, a little bit straighter, and the skirt is attached there, and especially you're not wearing high heels, sometimes it can make your torso too long. It can shrink your legs very, very much. Just make sure you check how that looks in this case. Number 10, capri pants, especially along with elongated t-shirt. Capri pants do make legs look shorter, and normally it's just because they finish at the widest part of your leg, which is in the middle of the calf. Sometimes some shortened pants, they're called cigarette pants or straight pants, they can finish around the ankle, which is very beautiful because ankle is the thinnest part of our body. It creates quite delicate look, but normally capri pants, they are finishing slightly higher in the cuff area. So this is when we can have a problem. We've done 10, but I have one bonus, but this is very rare. I normally don't see anyone who is doing that nowadays, but this is a dress on top of the pants. They've heard this tip on how to make yourself look interesting, and they do that, but just in fact that doesn't look well. And especially if the dress is made with stretchy fabric and it's quite sleek, then you can see all those stitches of your pants on the dress surface, and it just looks very weird. It disbalances proportions, and I know that in 2000s that was a peak of this mishmash fashion, and now there's just no point to do this. We're gonna talk about proportions a lot in one of my beauty courses that are coming soon. I'm gonna have several of them. As soon as they are ready, you will see all the links down below under each video and also in the comment section. We're gonna have a lot of quizzes. Train your eyes to see the differences in small elements so you can become a real pro in that. Stay tuned. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions, any suggestions for my future videos, please leave it in the comments down below. Thank you. Bye-bye.